Black businesses carry our bloodline. Black businesses carry our history. Black businesses are what we relied on through so many years when Black people couldn't go to other stores. We only had us. And now you start taking that away. You start taking the recipes from the certain foods that we eat. You start taking the methodology that we have with some of the style that we have. You start stripping that away, and then you ultimately you change history in the sense that now you can't find it anymore. And so we really need to take a deep dive and a deep understanding to passing on our history in a way through laws, through obviously write a will. And if you don't want to give the money to nobody, don't give the money to nobody, but damn sure give the information to a family member that you trust.
What's going on? Welcome back, everybody. Jack of all trades podcast. You know, the usuals here. Jamal not here today, but you know, we're gonna be having this episode with him in the spirit. But you know, me, Jim Music 856, Stan, the usual, and then obviously the man, the myth, the legend, Tom.
What's going on? What's going on? Yo. Yeah, Maul can't be here today. He's his wife had a birthday, so you definitely got to celebrate your wife when she has a birthday. So Maul wasn't able to make it to this show today. So I know he's out there in spirit, and he'll be watching, and he'll be, rooting us on from the sidelines. But
Absolutely.
Today we got a great episode going on. We're going to discuss a couple topics that we haven't really gotten into previously before, and a few that we have touched on briefly before. So we're going to get into all that, mix it up, shake it up. It's going to come out perfect. So let's get into it. Jack of all trades, episode 17, right here, right now. Let's go, Stan. Let's go.
Let's get it, man.
The first thing I'd like to discuss that it definitely plagues the Black community, but it also plagues all communities as well, too. Out of Chicago, and Harold's Chicken, that's been a staple for many, many years since Harold Pierce first started in 1950. And the empire of the Harold's Chicken has grown substantially over the years. After his passing, his daughter took over the Harold's Chicken empire. And since that, she became gravely ill, passed away, and then from there, rather than the Harold's Chicken empire going to the family, it's now being passed down to her husband. And now it's going into a court battle, whereas the family really believes that they should be able to continue the succession of the Harold's Chicken empire within the family, rather than it going to which would be not an heir, which would be an heir married into the family. So from that stand, I'd like to get into the conversation, not only of this, which is also crazy because it's definitely going to go into a legal battle. To my understanding, he's hired a big time lawyer out of Chicago to try to work this out and figure this out. But I also want to get into the bigger conversation of succession within Black businesses in this country. Whereas a lot of times, if you notice, many of us die without wills. And it's because I think a lot of times people think that they're not going to die. I just, there's no other way to put it. people get so entranced in, you know what I mean, in their lives. And so they don't make a will and testament, whether a person would be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. A lot of times people are, for lack of a better term, a bit narcissistic in the sense that they think they're going to live forever. So I wanted to really get into discussion here, talking about, what do you think that the succession of Black family business owners, should it be named, or should it be left up to the children of the families to figure it out in the end? What you think on that, Stan?
Oh, that's a tough one, man. Especially when an elder passes, you start to see the squabbles come out between the siblings. Some of the grievances from years past come out that are not even related to the topic at hand. So, I mean, even just in general, trying to figure out wills that can get kind of dicey and nasty, let alone if you have a well-known iconic business at stake here. And I think some people say the parent, they should have their will made, right? So you don't have this confusion after you pass, right? It's almost like when Alexander the Great died, and there was really no game plan as to how the empire was going to be divvied up, and we see how long Alexander's empire lasted after he died, right? All
Mm-hmm.
the princes and lieutenants or leaders of the different provinces, they would fight. It didn't turn out well, and this is really no different. I mean, in my opinion, I would have a will written out to say what each individual child is going to get, regardless of whether somebody thought they should have gotten more or they thought they got less than they deserved. That's not my fault. I'm going to the afterlife. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Right.
is I think it's kind of privy kind of to the point you made earlier, to have these things start out in order. I know when my grandma passed a few years ago, that's not the first time she had those conversations with us. Like, she was having those conversations with us 2, 3, 4 years prior to that. Like, we're driving down to Berlin Farmers Market, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's the place where I was talking to them to get my tombstone figured out." And I'm like, "I don't want to hear this right now."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But it was like, it it's something that has to be said. It has to be acknowledged. So like, we were, at least from my perspective, somewhat prepared for after she's gone. Like, what are we going to do to figure this out? Because when you don't do that, this is what can happen, especially if you have somebody who has a spouse. Now you're arguing between, does the spouse have power of attorney, or even if they were a long-term partner, do they have any type of rights to the inheritance or not?
Mm-hmm.
Because from the flip side, the husband's going to say, "Hey, I was here taking care of her. I was there as her husband this whole time, this 14 years. And then towards the end, when she had these health problems, were you guys there helping me take care of her or not?"
Right.
Like, these are the things that are going to come up, right? Right? Were you there when she was going through this illness, or if she had bills to pay, or she couldn't keep the medical appointments in order? Were you there helping out, or you just here coming in after she died? Like, you come in and you know, you say hi like every month or something like that, and then when she dies, now you have all the time in the world to get the will together. Or is it the other way around? Were they there supporting their mother to the end? I'm not here to determine that. I'm just saying these are the things that come up, so people don't come after my neck in the comments. These are the things that come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a will should have been made, and this is the explosive type of situation that you have that can come out of this, because, like you said, this isn't just any regular attorney the dude hired. He hired Lori Lightfoot, who was the 56th mayor of Chicago just 7 or 8 years ago. So
Right.
it's going to
Right.
get
Right.
real
This is,
dicey,
man.
real dicey.
I this is just is to me. It's so tough because in our community, in the Black community, this has always been a burden. But no matter what, there's so many times a person will die, and there will be, in this particular case, right? It's a $70 million empire, but in
Yeesh.
other cases, it'll be a house left over, or it'll be just some you know what I mean, some money in a bank account somewhere. Not
Right.
even sometimes big. Families will fight to the death over this, whether it be a property or this small parcel of land, or whether it be just some monetary 100,000 or whatever. But
Right.
families will fight to the death, break relationships with family members, have all types of squabbles, beefs, etc., that last for then the next lifetime, all because there wasn't a will and testament set in place. Now, I'm not particularly against not having a will. I think it's a very intelligent. I think without a doubt you should have a will made, because it's just you have certain things that you want to go to certain people. But I don't
Yeah.
fault a person for not kind of setting a will, because a lot of times it's like, well, I'm not here. I don't care. It's not, I don't need it anymore. So you would think, right? You're like, okay, I don't need it anymore. Let's just go to somebody, have at it. I can't take it with me.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so it is that double-sided thing right there. But once again, I think you should always have a will. Even if, let's say, you don't even want anything to go to your family, give it to charity. Give it to whoever. But it is that thing, like I said just in the beginning, it is a bit of narcissism within ourselves, because no one wants to think of their mortality. No one wakes up in the morning and says to themselves that, man, today might be it.
Mm,
I might not make it. And I
yeah.
had just saw a commercial, and life is crazy, but I had just saw a commercial on television where they said roughly you'll have about 26,000 days on this earth. And that equals to around like almost 73 years, right? So
Yeah.
it's when you put it in a perspective of days and you start thinking about it, you're like, well, damn. maybe maybe I either need to do more, maybe I need to cherish family more, maybe I need to work on this idea I had today rather than tomorrow. But also the fact that you do need to set up in place for your family, for your friends, even if that's what you want to do, to have your mark that you did set up on this earth, and to continue to go. Because just as in this case with Harold's chicken, right? Let's say, okay, his daughter died. She was keeping the business running. I mean, she learned from her father. She learned how to do it. She learned back end, front end, right? Grew up in the business. So obviously it was most important to her to keep her father's dream alive.
Yeah.
As time goes on, and now let's say her husband does get it, whether whole or share of the business, his ideas may not have been what Harold's ideas originally were. He wasn't there in the beginning. He's not his son, right? So all the
That
information that was
part.
passed down from Harold to the daughter is golden, is the glue of the company itself. And if none of these things were written down, to continue our conversation, as with us being in the African American community and where we came from, and once we didn't write things down because it was for our own safety. Because people would try to obviously steal our information. And if we want to go into slavery, clearly, if I'm going to write down the path that I'm going to try to run away from slavery from, obviously the slave master is going to know exactly where I'm at. So a lot of
Hmm.
through DNA structure and through stories told from generation to generation, these are passed down. So just as with this, him passing information to his daughter, what information was his daughter now passing to her husband, right? And was it the same information, or now everything changes, because that's the only thing that's constant is change. So this now gets passed to her husband, in which does he keep the business alive in the same method or path that Harold once did, or does he now go into his own? I think the business should be ran like this. I think the business should go like that. And before you know it, the business either fails, changes the name, etc., or maybe he doesn't even have the idea to keep the business running. Maybe he liquidates it all, takes the 70 million and moves to the Dominican Republic, right? And that's the
Sounds
problem.
good.
Yeah, sounds fantastic, right? I take my 70 mil, I go to Dominican Republic. I start a new life, you know? And that and to think about it, right? You don't know what and I'm sorry that I'm not using her name. I have it right here, but you don't know what she was telling her husband. Maybe she was telling him, sell the business, get up out of here,
Okay. Yeah,
go ahead, go
listen,
live your life on her deathbed. Maybe that's what she was saying, because even in the article it states that
that's what's going to be my question for you.
you about to say it. So
It,
even in the
yeah,
article,
exactly.
it basically states that she didn't want to write a will, so it does go to her husband. So what
Now,
you don't.
do you think? Do you think now Kristen Pierce, who married Vincent Sherrod, and
Mhm.
she's Kristen Pierce Sherrod. Do you think that,
Kristen
according to
Pierce,
him,
yes, which is the daughter. Yeah.
do you think that she told him that she was making an intentional decision to die, as per his words, paraphrasing here, without a last will and testament? Is that
Right.
something that flies with you when you hear that, or is it something where you're like, I don't know?
And you know what? I'm going to say I call bullshit. I call bullshit. Yo, I call bullshit because, hey, listen, come on. I'm running. I know the lady's intelligent. Rest in peace. I know she's intelligent. She was running a multi-million-dollar business. Stupid people don't run multi-million-dollar businesses and keep them running, right?
No, they
So,
don't.
so I know she was an intelligent woman. I guarantee 100% that there was things stated. Probably this needs to go to this person. That needs to go to this person. That needs to go to this person. But let's just say, for instance, I don't know the family structure. I'm not in their family. But let's just say, for instance, hypothetically, that the family doesn't like him. They didn't like Vincent Sherrod. Let's say the Pierce family was 100% against this guy, right? And so she's telling him on her deathbed, yes, give this to my brother, give this to my sister, give this to my aunt, uncle, etc. And he's like, man, screw them people. I don't like them anyway. So I'm gonna just go ahead and tell everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and tell everybody that, you know what, on her deathbed she said she didn't want a will, and it's it's up to me to carry this lineage on. So I don't believe that was the case. Now I'm kind of disappointed she didn't actually have a will set up, that she didn't call a lawyer before her death,
That's what I'm
because
saying. Yeah,
I'm quite I know the business has lawyers, right? You know the business has lawyers.
of course.
So unless there's more to this story that may come out in court, because it is now going to court, right? You said Lori Lightfoot. He hired Lori Lightfoot to be his lawyer.
Yeah, man.
I laugh
Yeah.
because she ran Chicago into the ground. I just
All right.
I just want-
She has her
hey,
hands in
listen.
everything Chicago. Harold's Chicken, the
Oh,
city,
I'm
everything.
just saying, how are you involved in that business? How are you involved? You're the former mayor of Chicago, and now you're gonna get into this messy family drama of where the business should go to and how it should go to. Some people just cannot stay out of the spotlight. Some people cannot hold themselves back and say, maybe I shouldn't take this on. Maybe I should set this one out. Nah, I'm going 100% into the drama.
Nah, I'm here. We need to do this.
we,
That's what it is.
it's just
We gonna
crazy.
get this settled right now.
It's wild to me, man. And I just, just in even going, like I said, even going further into black businesses, into family lineage.
Mm-hmm.
Black business is important in this country for our remembrance and for our future. Most black businesses, if not all black businesses, come from an idea of wanting to build a future and legacy for your family. And with the times changing, and with history being, how do I say this lightly, with history being replaced, we as a community really need to start evaluating how we continue black businesses in a fruitful manner. Because ultimately what could happen is black businesses get absorbed by larger companies, which are happening to everyone. This is not just a black
No, this
topic.
is
This really is a everybody topic. I'm just going straight to the community based off of this article. But
fair.
smaller companies are getting absorbed by these larger companies, the Black Rocks of the world. And what's happening is everything is being controlled, everything is being funneled into an idea of only a select few at that. And
I don't like that.
small businesses are the backbone of America. Without a small business, Walmart wouldn't have started. You know, Walmart starts as a small business, and all
Mm-hmm.
your local businesses that you love to go to on the weekends, all your farmers markets that you love to go to, all your food trucks, and all these things that you love and you enjoy are small businesses. Once that gets stripped away through taxes, through government policy, through the larger companies saying we don't want this here, is exactly how you destroy a society, and then all of a sudden you make everybody turn them into a robot. In which this will get into our next topic. But what will happen though for the black business is a lot more than just business. Black businesses carry our bloodline. Black businesses carry our history. Black businesses are what we relied on through so many years when black people couldn't go to other stores. We only had us. And now you start taking that away. You start taking the recipes from the certain foods that we eat. You start taking the methodology that we have with some of the style that we have. You start stripping that away, and then you start ultimately you change history in the sense that now you can't find it anymore. And so we really need to take a deep dive and a deep understanding to passing on our history in a way through laws, through obviously write a will. And if you don't want to give the money to nobody, don't give the money to nobody, but damn sure give the information to a family member that you trust. And that doesn't always work out, but give it to two that you trust.
There
Maybe
you
one
go.
works out.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, and pass the information down. Don't keep gatekeeping. Because a lot of times that's another topic, and that we can obviously talk about, but that's another topic. A lot of times with the older generation, we refer to them as the boomers. They want to gatekeep the information because they don't want anybody else to take it. Because then if they pass the information down, they're fearful that they will get outruled or they will get pushed to the side, which is a legitimate fear, but is a not a legitimate. It doesn't have legitimacy for the future. It just dies with you, essentially dies on the vine. So we do have to come to a common agreement from the younger generation, the Gen Z, the millennials, the Gen X, the boomers. We have to come to a conversation where it's very communicative in the way that, yo, listen, give us the information. We're not gonna rule you out and set you in a retirement home and leave you there to die. We gonna keep your lineage going, at the same time respect you as the elder of the community, because that's a lot of what we have lost and are losing. So there's a lot to it, but absolutely, I am. Now that we talked through this shit, yeah. Whoever out there right now, if you don't got a will, go get a will, write something down on a piece of paper, get it notarized, so
Do
that
it.
your information doesn't die with you.
Do it.
Stan, you got you got anything else on this story?
Oh,
This is a good
oh
topic.
yeah. Oh yeah. And you know what? I was thinking of another topic which is right along the same vein. People, people that know, they know there used to be a huge chain line store around the country called Strawbridges and Clothier. It was the Amazon of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Hell, it was the Amazon of the 20th century for that matter. And like if you go to downtown Philadelphia to what is the gallery. I don't care what they call it, the fashion district, is the gallery. If you go down to the gallery, there's this big building on 8th and Market, like 11 stories. And it was the flagship building. It was the biggest, it might have been the biggest flagship building in the world at one point in the 1920s or 30s or something like that. And when you went down to downtown Philly, you went into the Strawbridges store, and even the elevators were gold plated. And you had one floor have a bistro, another floor have the clothing department, top floor have a restaurant with Greco-Roman style pillars. It was different. You know what I'm saying? Like Michael Jackson was different. That store was different. And near the end, right? If you went to Echelon Mall, for those that from the Philly, NY, PA, tri-state area, People used to go from Philadelphia to New Jersey to Voorhees, to a place in the middle of nowhere, kind of from their perspective, just to go to Echelon Mall. Not Cherry Hill Mall, not Different Mall, Echelon Mall. Because Echelon Mall, it was almost like King of Prussia in terms of the events you would have there. Hell, we had The Rock, we had WWE superstars coming into to
Oh yeah, all
Echelon
the
Mall.
NFL players used to come through, sign
Yeah,
autographs. Everybody would come through Echelon Mall.
exactly.
That place was jumping.
You remember back then, you had the Disney store, then you had Strawbridge and Clothier, and they had their whole own court in front of the store with trees and benches. It was crazy. Like, people would not believe it if you told them that nowadays. And that store at one point seemed like it would never go out of business. It would be the
Hmm.
equivalent of Amazon going out of business right now. Like, inconceivable, right? But in 1997, I think, actually 96, the descendants of the founding families, right? So the original patriarch, G. Stockton Strawbridge, 82-year-old former chairman and grandson of the founder, vehemently opposed the selling of the company, and he believed deeply in maintaining the store's legacy as a local family-run institution. And the younger generation said, no, not all of them, but some of them. So that's
Hmm.
why Strawbridges and Clothier got sold off after 128 years of independent family management. And then it lasted for about 5-6 years, got absorbed by Macy's, and then it just ceased to exist. But the legacy that Strawbridge and Clothier had, I I look at the downfall of them and Sears as almost like the precursor to the downfall of like the brick and mortar store structure and the beginning of everything becoming online. And that's an example of, not only do you lose your legacy, but you kind of lose, in my opinion, your humanity in a certain extent. Nowadays, people don't even go to the store anymore. They can't even conceive of it, right? They go online for everything. And then what happens when you have the pandemic and all these things going on and things are closing? Now everybody's just gridlocked, hamstrung. They can't buy anything. Goods and services are getting locked up. You didn't have to worry about these things 20 years ago. It wasn't even a factor. It wasn't even a variable.
Hmm.
And even just to the further to the point, beyond logistically what it costs, it's like, have you no pride in what was built by your family over 120 years? Like, what are you thinking about? If that's your version of the future, where you sell off your heritage and everything that was built, then is that a future that you should really want to be a part of? Not all progress is good progress.
Right.
Sometimes progress, I guess, even though this is oxymoronic, can be reductive. You make progress in one area just to take 10 steps back in another area that you did not foresee.
Hmm.
Right. And that's kind of my thoughts on it. It's just like, you have the money signs make you forget about legacy sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, money can be the root of all evil. They always joke around and say money. People who say that don't have any, but no, it
It's the
is
love of
because
money. It's the
it's the
love and
love.
obsession with
You start
money that
getting
is the root.
blinded. You're getting blinded because you see a dollar, you see that dollar sign, and then all of a sudden, now your great grandfather, who spent his whole life savings. Mind you, think about this from some companies. Spent his whole life savings. He wasn't worried about the money. He was worried about, can I build a legacy that my children's children's children would eat? I don't care if I die without a dollar in my pocket. Cool. I can't take it with me. But if I build something, there's something here that's standing that my child can eat from. And that's just, I'm sorry getting sidetracked, but it's just that really it really bothers me, in the sense that people are so selfish, and they just think, and then money, they put an imaginary figure, right? Because when we talking about money in this country, it's imaginary from the sake of what money is. Money is only a tangible asset because we put a dollar to it, and it's quote unquote supposed to be backed by our government, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if the government falls, that dollar you got in your pocket is worth $0, worth nothing. But a standing building, no matter how you look at it, is worth something because there is a tangible asset. You can touch the wood, you can touch the drywall, you can touch the brick, but that piece of paper in your pocket is literally only worth that piece of paper. So, yeah, man, it's that money. I don't get the concept other than the structural mindset that has been blasted into people's heads.
I think that's a great transition point into the next topic, which is the NVIDIA data centers. And obviously, we're going to talk about the data centers and the updates with the cooling system, but a bigger overarching narrative is, and I say this behind the scenes, sometimes on screen, technology always outpaces the human ability to regulate it. That's something that I was taught in school, in graduate school. We were doing like management systems, and that's something that was said to me by a pretty sharp dude teacher, and it always stuck with me. And it's like, we have our phones, we have our computers, we have our data centers, we have our cell phone towers, we have 5G internet and high speed Wi-Fi connection. Um, but yet people are more depressed. A lot of people, if you go on Reddit, where I think you get a lot of truth because people can speak under the cloak of anonymity and they can be their true selves. Um, Rocket Science 1986. Nobody knows who that is, so they could just say what they want on the internet, right?
That's true.
And you see like some of the despair and hopelessness that people express in some of these posts. There's a lot of happy posts, pictures of autumn, pictures of animals, people traveling, past present pics of marriages, but there's a cesspool, a swamp of people who are just expressing their emotions online because they feel like they don't have anybody else to listen to them in real life, right? So we have all this technology, the ability to get what we want when we want it. We don't have to wait for we don't have to be in front of the TV when a TV show comes on. We can just record it, DVR it, watch it again later. We have all these things, but yet we have an increased rate of antidepressant usage and people just expressing that they're just not really happy with life. Or you see posts about, oh, I have 6 figures. Some may have a family with it, and they're like, is this it? Right? They're not grounded to anything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you have technology, you have money, all these things that people put all this inherent value and their interest and time into, but they don't really, it's like they've lost track of the human experience and what it actually is. So when they get all these things or I feel like people are more unhappy now with technology, where it's progressed over the last 20 years than they did when we had much less in terms of technology. So I think that's one overarching problem. And I don't think that AI is going anywhere anytime soon. In addition to having to address these problems, now AI, the technology is just expanding. It's running full speed, regardless of whether we're ready to keep up with it and have ourselves in order. And right now, what's happening with these data centers, after that long roundabout speech, is they found a way to cool the data centers using substantially less resources. So right now, they have a new data center that they were talking about, and they're claiming to solve one of AI's biggest problems. So it's a new closed loop liquid cooling system that could reduce data center water usage to almost zero and cut the cooling related energy consumption by up to 40%. So what their plan is to basically take hot water and use it to cool the system, which sounds counterintuitive, but they're claiming that they have that ability. And so much so that NVIDIA's Rubin architecture may allow these data centers to operate more efficiently while freeing up space and power for additional computer capacity. So these data centers may get even more efficient at what they're doing while cutting back the energy costs, which is why a lot of companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, which is Google, Meta Platforms, Oracle, they're already reserving production of the NVIDIA Rubin system through 27 into 2028. So like they're already looking ahead at this. And other AI companies, they're struggling to keep pace. And that's why you see NVIDIA's stock price number gradually rising. And right now, the estimates by 2030 is that NVIDIA may be possibly a $20 trillion company in valuation. With, just a couple years ago, NVIDIA was just any other regular chip company. It wasn't anything super special. And now they may be the big boy in the market. In terms of market cap, I think they surpassed Microsoft. And if not, they're certainly right there. I mean, just think about it. It's like the way that Pepsi ran up on Coke back in the day. Coke was like, Pepsi, who's that? We're not going to buy them out. Blockbuster's
Right.
like Netflix. They won't be here in 5 years.
Yeah. Who's
Look at
gonna?
Block.
Who wants to stream? Who wants to stream it on a
Right.
TV? No,
Yeah.
you want a videotape. You want DVD.
Exactly. So I want to know what you think about, and we talked about consolidating power, right? So these big companies, they buy up all these other small industries, whether it be black-owned businesses getting bought up by bigger companies, or just any business getting bought up by bigger companies. And now you have these super conglomerates of what we used to call, what's the game? Monopoly, right? The same way Rockefeller and Carnegie Mellon and U.S. Steel was, Amazon and Microsoft and Alphabet. That's who they are today. That's why they're having these antitrust cases.
Yep. All the lawsuits that are
at
out there.
Congress because of this, right? So, what do you think is going to happen in the next coming years if this truly is a thing for NVIDIA? And where do you see this taking AI?
Jack of all trades. Like, follow, share, subscribe.
Yes.
So this is what I'm thinking, right? Is that AI is definitely not going anywhere. We know that for sure, right? AI, to me, currently, in which I think it will always be, is nothing but a replicator. AI doesn't necessarily think for itself. It's only just combining all of our thoughts into one engine and then producing an output. The thing is, what AI ultimately will do is what we're all fearful of, right? So, sure, all these companies, their market cap just gets larger, 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 larger. And it's all based off of this thought process that AI is worth more and more and more and more and more and more to people, in which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think AI has this huge way of making the world any better than what we've already made it.
Bro, I was just thinking about that walking down the hallway, but keep going, man. Keep cooking.
You know, I don't think it makes the world any better. All it does is repeat and replicate faster than we would. But I don't think that's a better way of doing it, because I think there's something very important about going out and finding the knowledge yourself and reading a book and going and actually researching and how you got to your ultimate outcome. Because AI, you put in the AI, hey, how do we figure out the weather every day, right? And then it comes back and it tells you that the weather is measured in the shade every day, and then obviously, you know what I mean, and then you can get your temperature that would be measured in the sun, your temperature measured, all this. But what it's
Yeah.
not telling you, I mean, you can ask it and you can dig further and further into AI, and you can say, okay, who figured this? Who found this out? Where did we get this from? How do we know? And it's just scraping from everything that's been put into the AI engine. What about the other factors that are not put into the AI engine, such as how the human mind thinks, because us ourselves don't know the answer? And then
Yeah.
how do we ultimately rely on something that's only processed in the way in which it is? And it's not processed from human thought, it's processed from what human thought has already previously thought. Not the future, but it's only a predictor of the future, and it cannot predict the future of what a man can do only based off of the numbers. And we know we're not based off of numbers ourselves, because our logical thought and our frontal lobe will make and can make irrational decisions in a rational moment, or rational decision in an irrational moment,
No, we
right?
don't make mistakes, Tom. You know that.
The problem with AI, right? And I will, you know what I mean, once again, get sidetracked a little bit, but because obviously we're talking about, you're talking about as far as, the market cap and these companies taking over the world, and also with the data centers and how bad those are for the environment, and even with them trying to make a better product of the data engines and the data storage, it's still just ripping from the earth, even more than we've already ripped from the earth with gasoline engines and diesel and fossil fuels and everything else that we've already stripped clean from the earth. But the problem with AI is that ultimately the fear is we start to rely on AI. Currently, right now, we don't
That part.
rely on AI. I don't believe that we rely on AI. Nobody's relying on AI. It's still very unstable. It's an unstable platform. But the scary part is that in which way the human mind thinks, in which way it starts to believe it's correct, it is in the same way that money has changed people's thoughts from the barter and trade system. Whereas people thought barter and trade, you can't get no better than that. And I still believe barter and trade can't get no better than that, honestly. I think that was probably one of the most efficient systems of having a value to anything as anything could be. If you give if if a farmer gives blacksmith food, and a blacksmith is able to produce poles to build a gate to keep in the cattle, it don't get much better than that.
Sure.
The thought process, I don't need, like, the thought process is ultimately perfect in that regard. You can always find flaws in any process, but that process right there is, I learn a skill, this person has a skill, this person's a doctor, this person's a lawyer, this person has a tangible skill, a tangible asset, makes everybody not only on a, for the most better part, it a more level playing field, but it
Yeah.
also gives you the ability to rely on the next man, so it doesn't train the mindset to say I'm better than. Because when you put a dollar value on
Mm-hmm.
it, and this person has
Mm-hmm.
$10 million, and this person has $10,000, the ultimate mindset would say to you that, oh, he's better than him. But this person only got $10 million because his daddy left it to him. And this person only got $100,000 because, you know what I mean, he had that 10 million and he wound up, you know what I mean, something tragic happened. No one's better than anybody in that
I'm
regard,
sorry,
especially
man.
when it comes to money.
I'm getting sidetracked thinking as you're talking because I'm just thinking about all the influencers and every advertisement I see on YouTube and Instagram, and people flossing their money and this, that, and the third, and it's just like that shit just irritates me. As people put a value on how much. Listen, you might have $10,000 and I have $5, and you might have earned that. You may not have earned that. It doesn't make you inherently more valuable than somebody else. Like, you may only have that $10,000 because it's against the law for me to whoop your ass and take it from you. Doesn't mean that you're better than me, right?
Right. So it's that, but that's what scares me about AI, and that's what scares me about the data engines, and that's
Yeah.
what scares me about the machines. When it comes to that, is because not only are we extracting resources, and clearly we're trying to find better and more efficient ways that our data centers can work and can run efficiently. But to me, there is no work and run efficiently when all you are using the storage centers, and all you are using this data for is to take and extract from the human mind, and then run back as a process back to the human mind. What are we gaining from it, other than, oh, we're learning things, and then, yeah, maybe we can make a robot that does everything that we do, and then what happens? They're just replicating. They're just replicating, and at that same time, We're probably going to cause cancers. You know that's going to happen. We're probably going to put holes in the earth that we can never fix. You know that's going to happen. We're making more machines that we won't be able to break down, and that'll create more toxic waste, and then that'll once again cause some disaster with global warming and just make the earth warmer and warmer and warmer till we burn ourselves off and just keep going, and then we just keep going, right? All speculation. It's not that I have the book of the world in my hands, but I hate to say it, we probably did it before with the dinosaurs. I We just started taking and taking and taking, whether the earth did it or whether human and mankind did it. Start taking from the earth, and what happens? The trees don't grow as tall, the dinosaurs can't eat, the earth starts to manifest in a way that can't support such large beings.
You know what it
And so
is?
what'll
Is
wind up
my bad, my
Go
bad,
ahead,
my bad.
Stan.
Um,
Well, all
yeah,
I
go,
was
yeah.
saying was what's going to wind up being is you keep on making these data centers, you keep on extracting from the earth. Guess what's going to happen next? Famine. Guess what's going to happen next? You know what I mean? The inability to build homes, because now what you did was build a data center and it put a hole in the earth. So now the land can't be perked and you can't build homes no more. So now you don't have shelter. So now you don't have food, you don't have shelter. What happens next?
Here's a good
Go
example.
ahead, Stan.
It's talking about famine. What happened when they overdeveloped the farmland in the Midwest? The Dust Bowl ended up happening. They didn't foresee that shit coming because they ran through the nutrients too quickly. All the topsoil got depleted. And then all of a sudden you have these big dust storms in the middle of the 20th century. You think they were thinking about that 100 years before? They're like, oh no, we have a way to make mass produce crops and everything's going to be perfect. Yeah, like even if you thought you thought through all the parameters, you did not. There are things that you're probably going to overlook no matter how smart you think you are in that moment in time in history. And I think I would not be surprised, to your point, that probably every civilization at some point in time had, well, at certain points in history, we've hit critical mass where the decisions that we've made have come to roost. And
Mm-hmm.
these decisions never happen overnight. They're usually a series of small decisions or small events that build up to a crescendo. So people hear like, oh, well, if you don't have enough foliage because you're over using the farmland, or you're using up all the water, then animals like dinosaurs or other animals don't have food. They're like, that's impossible, or we don't care, or that's, I can't visualize it or see it, so it doesn't exist to me. No, these things do exist in a vacuum. But then when you add these multiple events together and you get this compound effect, you don't really necessarily see it until the end. Kind of like cancer. People get cancer and they're like, where did this come from? But typically cancer, that can take decades. It starts decades before you get it. Some decisions you directly make that influence that outcome, and some things happen in the background, things you're not paying attention to, like walking outside in the sun for too long, day after day after day, or maybe not eating breakfast for 2 or 3 months in a row because you had a deadline to hit, and you do that a couple times every year, or a couple times every few years, and that starts adding up. Like, and that's not the only thing. That there's a multifactorial equation of little things that we deem as meaningless and insignificant that eventually add up to something that is meaningful and significant. And oftentimes I find out as humans, we're too arrogant to at least consider that there are things that are outside of our understanding that we may have to at least take a minute and have pause before we go full speed into the future with this technology that we think is going to cure all. And to your point, I was thinking earlier, I'm like, 1990s, couldn't dream of having this technology. Would have like daydreams when I was in grade school about, man, what if this calculator could be like a computer in my hand, right? Sounds outlandish. Like, would never imagine that. And then we have that in the 2000s. And maybe that would have been a good time to stop. Like, you have just enough technology to enhance life, but not enough that is getting out of control in terms of your ability to regulate it. And then you fast forward 10 years into the 2010s, and now you have all these different things, including social media, AI starting to become a thing, Bitcoin, the first beginnings of that. And who would have imagined that all these things would have blown up into what they are now? And now you're having to worry about data centers. We weren't thinking about data centers 10, 15 years ago. And now it's just like you're popping up in every other town. And the benefit that you're going to get from that, is it worth the cost that you're going to pay on the front end and eventually the back end? Things that we may or may not know about. So, I mean, that's just something to think about.
Man, it's to me, it's really, I look at it as we're always going to look to find a better answer to everything. That may actually be one of the biggest human flaws that exist, is that we're always searching for the answers. And not even to get into to biblical, but it can be evaluated and used for that same purpose in this statement. We don't know essentially where things have started at all. We don't know. These are the questions that have always plagued the earth for centuries of mankind and will always plague the earth. How did we get here? And sometimes I don't think we need the answer. And then sometimes I get curious and say, I think we need an answer. But realistically, we don't need an answer to all these questions. And we don't always need to keep pushing forward and forward and forward and forward to a point where we extinct ourselves. Because I really do believe that's what we're leading to. We're making things we don't need. So for instance, the Wright brothers, when they first got out there and started trying to fly an airplane and trying to build an aircraft to go into the sky to fly like Icarus. Now, okay, I get it. It's technology. It's something that you're like, yeah, you know what? We don't need it, but we could use it. It could be a thing. We could try it. Okay, cool. We essentially learn the aerodynamics, and we learn the aeronautics, and we learn all these things that we will need to fly. Cool. Let's not stop there. Let's go to space. Let's go to outer space, because we need to be there. Let's just
We
keep
need to
going
be
further
there.
and further. Why the answers to your why maybe should be why you should stop.
Ooh,
because
gotta clip that
because
one.
because it's, you're going to keep going and you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to burn yourself into an infinity. Why do we not know the answer to infinity? Why do we not know, like, the symbol? We just wrote the symbol for infinity because we don't know, and you're not supposed to know. And sometimes you have to be okay with the obligatory, you don't know the answer. And when you do that, you probably will find comfort in actually cherishing and cultivating what is near you, because you're worried about going to outer space, but the whole time the earth is dying.
You know, they're working on the God particle, the boson particle at the CERN facility
Are
in
they?
Switzerland. Yeah, they've been doing that since we
Really?
were at Haddon Heights. When I heard about it from Miss Egner in chemistry class about the CERN reactor in Switzerland. So they have um, antimatter. They're able to create antimatter in a facility deep underground in Switzerland. So they accelerate particles. I don't know if they're electrons, neutrons, whatever, but they're accelerating particles at extremely high speeds. And I think the sun is hot enough to create a fission reaction. We're able to create fusion reactions on Earth with atomic bombs, but they're able to, I don't know if it's fusion or somewhere between fusion and fission, or they're just accelerating particles at a very high speed, but they were able to create antimatter for very, very small amounts of time. You're talking about far less than a second or a millisecond, maybe less than a nanosecond. Like very antimatter cannot exist. It can only exist in a vacuum. As soon as antimatter touches matter, it causes I think I don't know if the term is catastrophe, but the mere presence of matter and antimatter in the same room, they touch each other and boom, they can't exist in the same room. So side tangent. It's like, why do we need to know that? Why do we need to keep fooling around with things that are clearly extremely dangerous and we don't really have a full understanding of yet? Or the capacity, even if we had an understanding of where we want to go to, we don't even have the capacity to harness, let's say, the power that is produced by the sun, or a power to that level on Earth in a safe manner without causing serious harm to ourselves or the planet. Like, why do we have to always push the limits instead of being happy with what we have? And that's not to say that you have to have nothing. Like, well, we can't have the God particle, then you just expect us to go back to being cavemen and eating food without a fire. No, like, why does it have to be one extreme or another? No, we found a good middle ground, I think, with technology. Let's say 20 years back. To your point, why do we have to F around and find out? That's the question. Like, why does it always have to be FAFO?
I mean, we don't even perfect something before we're already moving on to the next, right? You take NHTSA, the National Highway Transit Safety Authority, right? We don't even have safe roadways. Our infrastructure in this country is falling apart.
Don't get me
There's
started on that,
bridges
man.
that are falling down at this very moment as we speak, just falling down in
You hear that, man?
in some rural areas, in some very large metropolitan areas where there's bridges falling down. There's train systems in this country and tracks that haven't been used in hundreds, like, I won't say in centuries. You know what I mean? At least decades for sure.
I'm sorry,
But
you hear that? You SEPTA, yeah.
but definitely in and we can't even figure out to sustainably keep food on the table for children. And we worried about data centers. We're worried about how to create cooler chips and water jackets for the engines that can hold storage and data so it can produce out more information that we're storing. But we're not taking care of the small things or large things that should be taken care of first. Now, I would be a proponent. If AI right now could go out there and go fix all of our bridges, cool. If AI right now by itself, without any human doing it, if AI right now could go out there and figure out a system of safety where no person would ever die in another car again, cool. But right now, Waymo's getting to accidents. So you can't tell me that AI is something we need at this very moment when we haven't fixed the little shit. It's not, it's just we still back to, and I said this on a podcast before, and I said it on another podcast again. We get this fascination in our minds that we need to sprint before our ass could crawl. And it's never been sufficient. It's never been a way that we're going to keep on going without fixing what was before. You cannot, without a question, you cannot put up walls before you build the floor. Because if not, it's just going to crumble. And we just keep on going into this situation where we're looking at a future, not only for us, but a future for the future generations of a situation of nothing but a place where it's just gonna crumble, man. And like, it's great. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great that we advance in technology and that we're not stagnant. but in the same time, we're not making technology that's fixing what was broke.
And to kind of wrap this up, let me play devil's advocate real quick. Let's say they're taking this bet that 10, 15 years from now, a lot of the issues that we have now, either because of or I guess alongside AI related problems, like let's say is able to solve a lot of these problems. Who's going to be the beneficiary of this quote unquote will of this will of artificial intelligence that people are writing? We're not writing it. The elites and these opportunistic companies, the monopolies, the big corporate giants, they're the ones that are spearheading this. So the question is, are you part of the will, or are the elites and upper class part of that will? Right? They're creating something that may solve many problems, but you may not be part of the spoils of all the toil, if you will. Yeah, we came up with the technology, but it's not for you peasants. It's for the upper class. Good luck, everybody else.
That's what you're faced with, man. I mean, nothing about this technology is cheap. Nothing about this technology that keeps getting expanded and expanded and expanded is built by the poor man for resources for not only the poor but for the rich, but for everyone. None of this stuff is being built for the masses. It's just really not. Because if it was being built for the masses, there would be a push for a functional way of building these data centers. It's not. These big companies are coming in and they're petitioning to these politicians in these smaller towns, and not to disrespect politicians in smaller towns. I mean, I'm not no knock on them, or because they are just people just like anybody else. But once again, it's coming down to these larger companies are coming into these smaller towns and they're putting these huge dollar amounts on the table to the politicians. Yo, we'll come in
No,
if you
call it
allow
what
us
it
to build a
is.
data center.
Call it what it is,
We'll bring
because
you.
there's people that go to those town hall meetings and say we don't want this, and they say, oh yeah, we hear you, blah blah blah. We're putting it up anyway. No, you're sellouts. Even if you feel like it's for a good cause, everybody should have a consensus that it's for a good cause, not just you.
But the worst part about it is a lot of times is that the people stand up and say no. Sometimes the politicians even stand up and say no. But these companies put that big dollar amount on the table and say, we'll bring in $100 million to this smaller town, right? So look what you could do with this huge $100 million when the whole time you just signed your town away, which
Sentiment
goes back
doesn't
into what we were.
change. Sentiment doesn't change. It's
Yo,
just, it makes it even worse. It makes your error even more egregious.
right. You turned into Strawbridge and Clothier. You literally sold your people down the road. You might have sold yourself down the road in the same manner.
And we talked about the black business model, but it just shows you that although yes, we need that as a community, the only color that matters to a lot of people is green. Them white people in that Strawbridge's family, they said he was Strawbridge's and it died with him. They said, "Man, go to sleep, old man." Fun time was over. That's what they
Yeah,
say indirectly.
it is, man, and it's really because, like I'm telling you, I think it really comes back to in this society that we're in, we're already overloaded with data, right? Our minds are already overloaded with data, which to your point earlier when you said the highest depressions of all time and the highest usages of antidepressants of all time, from men, women, everybody, even children. You as the human mind goes, you're not supposed to be trying to intake all of this data all the time. TV on 24/7, cell phone on 24/7. Your brain does not get an opportunity to relieve itself and refresh itself. So and to put it into even layman's terms, if you leave a computer running on 24/7, 365, it's going to burn out faster than a computer that you that goes through the shutdown process once a day.
Yeah.
It's 100% proven over and over and over again. And we've now put our minds in a state where our minds don't even sleep. A lot of folks will tell you weird things like sleep is the cousin of death, or a lot of people will tell you the hardest working people out there, they don't sleep. Elon Musk sleeps on the floor of SpaceX, and that's how he's amassed the backing and where he's gotten today, and all of this, and all this. People will tell you all this wild shit that may and it may work for them, but for most people, the majority, you need to rest your body. If not, your body will break down faster. These are proven scientific facts. Your body will break down faster. Your mind will start to wander and fray. Dementia will kick in. All of these things are extremely, extremely researched. And the fact that people will still get on the internet and tell you that you don't need to sleep. You just need to work. But for what? You're working day and night and day, so that 100 years from now, your child can sell your business and not give a fuck. What you doing? What you doing? Appreciate what's around you. Sure, make some money. Don't live in squander if you can't. But money should never should be your end all be all. And that's why I'm 100% opposed to these data centers. And even when we had spoke about it before and we had talked about it, the noises some of these data centers make at night,
Crazy.
that a lot of these residents have came back and reported, it has literally sounded like it was the movie in Alien versus Predator. And we cannot keep allowing these larger companies to basically just throw the what they would consider, right, the lowest man on the totem pole, because they're not going into, and let's just call a spade a spade. They ain't going to Beverly Hills talking about, I want to put in a data center.
They know better.
Right. They're going to these smaller rural towns that have, to their thought process, this enormous amount of space that we can just plop this down here and we're good. No. If that's the case, you know what? Put the data center on Mars. You want to get rockets, you want to have all this, all these funds, and you have all these plans. Put the data centers on Mars. Put the data centers on another planet.
It's solved now.
If
if
that's what you want to do. But other than that, man, leave these people alone. We don't need all this data. We don't need AI. You're trying to move it faster. And I'm not even going to get into the fact that people are losing their jobs at extreme rates because of AI. They want to tell us that people are not losing their jobs because of AI. That is just restructuring of companies because of the money that AI takes. But that's literally the definition of AI taking over and, replacing people's jobs. So it's just, no, like, stop, no, stop. Like, we need to stop. We need to stop. I don't care how, like the articles that you had sent, Stan, and how they're trying to, run the water. They're running the water. They can operate at higher temperatures. The data centers can operate at higher temperatures now through basically like water jackets and cooling systems.
45 degrees Celsius even.
45 degrees Celsius. Great. That's fantastic. So now not only are you stripping the earth of more electricity, now you're stripping the earth of more water. Let's go. It just gets better. It just gets better over time, doesn't it? Let's just keep on using as many things as we can for things that we don't necessarily need. We didn't need, let's be real. In 1985, we didn't need a data center. In 2026, we still don't really need that same data center. So now we're going to let's start using water. You know what? Let's start injecting different types of coolants. And we know what that does to the environment, because where are you going to when that coolant has worn out? Where does it go? Let's find the nearest landfill, and let's find the nearest Earth's core that we can continue to destroy.
It goes in the Schuylkill River, Tom. You know that.
I'm just telling you, it's not, none of
Crazy.
this is good. None of it works out for the better. And for the promotion of these larger companies to get out here and say, yes, we're trying to make the world better. We're trying to make it a better place. But at the same time, we're going to lose a couple 100 million. Like, no, 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 no. Everybody does not have
No.
to die for the world to be a better place. It
Listen,
just doesn't.
we can give up 5G and go back to 4G or 3G if it means that we're not destroying the natural resources around us. Listen, are things faster now? Yes. Is there higher resolution on the TVs? Yes. But this is just me.
Sure.
From when I was watching the Eagles game in 2004, watching Diamond McNabb and T.O., TV was pretty damn clear from my recollection compared to now. Yeah, is it a little clearer? Sure. Yes, it is. But like I don't need that. I'm not going to die without it. I was perfectly happy then with the PS2, good clarity. How we got the PS5 now, the same resolution, it will be fine. You will live. Like we don't need data centers
right.
for that. We're doing that without data centers.
It doesn't. Right. The picture clarity gets better. The response
At what point
on
does it
video
stop,
games
Tom?
get better.
When does it stop?
It
It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Exactly.
It doesn't stop. And then when we're going back watching old YouTube videos in 25 years because it's nostalgic to do it, and people are going back and watching these videos and they're looking at them in the picture.
I'm scared you.
And the picture, hey,
talking
listen,
crazy,
we going, man. This jack of all trades.
Talking crazy,
we go
dude.
in. We go in. We don't stop. We don't stop. Shit. And so when people go back and look at these videos, like watching VHS tapes in 25 years, and say, man, that picture clarity is terrible. But the whole time, in each and every neighborhood, there's a small little data block on the end of your street that's causing cancer, that's causing children to have 4 eyes, that's causing people to be born with 1 arm, that's causing all types of hereditary issues, dietary issues, as many other issues as you can think. Just remember, there were people out here that said, no, stop, don't. All right. Everybody was not involved in we need more data. Everybody was not here saying we need to keep on pushing for better picture clarity. I don't give a shit. Man, 1997, those graphics couldn't have got any better at that time when we were playing it. It was great. It was fantastic. There was squares running around on the screen, and it was great. NFL Blitz, fantastic game. I loved it. Play it today. Listen, we don't need to keep going further and further and further into things that are detrimental to us. Now, like I said, I'm a proponent. If artificial intelligence in these data centers were safe, if they were something that we could all look forward to and be like, you know what? It's not harmful to the environment. It's not going to destroy the Earth's core. Cool, fine. But we know that's not the case. Just in the same regard, we are now going for the push for electric vehicles opposed to gasoline powered vehicles, but neither one is a supplement for the other, because going from fossil fuels to electric, guess what? Where's electricity come from at its bare minimum? So you have to say to yourself, and I know people wouldn't want to necessarily agree with me on this, or and now since once where we have come from, but when horses got you from A to B, I mean, it wasn't the fastest mode of travel, but horses got you from A to B, you know, and bicycles still to this day will get you from city to city nonstop. So I'm just saying, there needs to be a scale back on what we think we need. That's what we need to scale back on. And a lot of times people will denote people as, oh, they're trying to be part of the, they're green. They want all healthy for the environment. But you're saying it like it's a bad thing. Like, how is trying to help the environment a bad thing? So, man, I don't know these data centers, but hell no. Hell no. I don't care how cool they can make it. I don't care if these computers could run in 170 degrees. It's no matter what they do, they're going to use some resource that we already don't have to be able to expand for this. We just don't. We just don't, man. And then I know I just went off on a tangent where I
They
just been
needed to hear
talking.
it, man. They needed to hear it. I was going.
I just been going, man.
Sometimes you gotta let Jordan just go off in the fourth quarter. You can't interrupt him. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, just like last week when we sat down with Steve, man, he was just like I said, he was dropping in bombs. It was like, hey, we good. Like I'm just sitting back enjoying. I'm enjoying this. I don't want to say a word, shit, And I was just like, man, and it's this stuff, man. And I think more people need to get up and say it in a relevant way. I do believe a lot of times people have these great thoughts and have these intellectual processes that need to be sent out there into the world, and either they don't know how to say it, or they say it on such a higher level that nobody gets it and everybody just writes them off.
Yeah.
People need to start standing up for what they know is the right way. These larger companies, no. There's nothing wrong with big companies in the sense of, sure, some companies are good. They make a lot of money. They got a good product. It becomes a big company. But the larger companies that just have nothing but the sole goal in mind to make money and to only make businesses that are for their own sole purposes and try to pass it off as it's good, those are the companies that need to be disbanded, broken up. And not just because of legality, because Microsoft is stealing Apple's engines and engineers in some of their data and how some of their processes work. No, they need to be broken up, not because of collusion. They need to be broken up because people are dying because of this shit. Yeah, man. Well,
Hey,
yeah.
I mean, let us know what you think in the comments, because these are things that not just affect us, but they affect all of us. So, let us know where you stand on that, man, because I don't think AI is going anywhere anytime soon. But with that being said, let's go ahead and segue over to a lighter topic. Well, maybe not lighter for me, but lighter for Tom. Tariq Skubal, man, heading over to the Dodgers. Philly's got Luis Arias at the trade deadline, best let's say for contact hitter, maybe in the majors. Certainly up there in terms of best hitters since 2000. But Tariq Skubal, I mean, that's you talk about getting a nuclear weapon right there. How you feel about that trade?
All right, so this is what I want to get into, and really want to talk about this. This is one of the topics when we were going over before the show, before doing Jack of all trades. Once again, like, follow, share, subscribe. But before doing the show, I wanted to really dig into this. The Dodgers just acquired Tarek Skubal from the Detroit Tigers in a trade for three of our farm system players. One of our Zaire, he's like, this guy's great. His numbers out of AAA, AA ball would have been fantastic, bro. Like, and so what happens here is I don't particularly like it, but it's I'm a trade now than later. The Rams have done it. Many other teams have done it. The Eagles have done it in the past. The Patriots have done it. Hey, a championship is a championship, and that's what you work your whole goal for. But definitely, I liked the trade because we needed another pitcher. Shohei has been good throughout the year, but now he's breaking down because obviously you can't run your body 24/7. Our other pitchers, Blake Snell, he came into the year already a little broken up. Sasaki has had issues with control, and Yamamoto does allow runs scored. So it was necessary for us to get another pitcher. It didn't have to be of the likes of Tarek Skubal, but we'll take, hey, another ace on the hill is great. But we did trade for a guy that is now at the end of his contract, in which he has just said this week that he doesn't mind playing out the rest of his career in Detroit. He would actually like to. So it is one of those moves that have been done by other players in the past that ended their contract and say, I'm gonna just run it up. I'm gonna try to go to this team that is a potential championship winner. Go try to win that championship with him and then trade me right back to where I came from, or trade me to another team that's I'm gonna max out my max contract. So, is it good on one end? Yes. Is it bad on another? Yes. If we win a championship, it's an all-in mentality. It's all-in championship win. That's a new term I'm coining. All-in championship in. Right? Championship win. All-in championship win. But the thing is, if we don't win a championship, what we gave up, man, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it if we don't win a championship. And being though that the Dodgers, this would be if we do win another championship, that would be what, 4 championships in 6 years?
Wow.
So that's dynasty because we got 20, 24, and 25. So yeah, that was 3 championships in 5 years.
I would say it's a dynasty
so yeah,
already. That's just my opinion.
I mean, to me, I would consider the Dodgers to be I wouldn't call it quite a dynasty yet, though.
What stops you from being a dynasty, would you say, at this point?
Cause that black mark on that 2020.
What was it? What? Because
COVID, 60 games. It's not a full baseball season.
All right, but still, you got back-to-back ones. Even if you take that one out, how's it any different from the? How's it any different from the Cowboys in the early '90s? They're going for. They didn't get the 3 people. They're right there. People still think they're a dynasty.
Yeah, they were right there. But I don't know, because every team in Major League Baseball is compared to the Yankees.
Sure,
that's the gold standard.
Sure.
Even if you don't want to admit it, it is. It's the gold standard. So we get one this year. Dynasty for sure. 3-peat championship. Yeah. It's nothing you could say about it. You put Shohei on he's already, I believe, the second greatest baseball player of all time. But he wins a 3-peat now in this era, modern day baseball. It makes him probably the best player of all time, without a question. With many years left to go in his career,
I'd say top 3 or top 4 right now. Just off the top of my head.
Just off the top
of my head, yeah. I put Babe Ruth ahead of him just right now.
Yes.
That could change.
Yes.
Look, people would say what they want about him. I put Barry Bonds. Even without the juice, he was a Hall of Famer. I mean, there was no drop off with him from like beginning to end almost.
For sure.
Like if you would have put him anywhere but the Giants, how many rings would that dude have? And then I think you have to start talking about Shohei, because to be able to pitch at that level and then hit at the level he has, you might not ever see that again.
Yeah. No, without a question. And if you wanted to put him at your 4, I guess I would put Hank Aaron right before Shohei.
Yeah, but that can change
in that regard,
though.
from hitting.
That can change
from the hitting. From the hitting. But the fact that when you hit and pitch, that's what makes him number 2 for me, because he is right behind Babe Ruth, because you can hit and pitch.
I think that's up for discussion. I can't necessarily argue that. I mean, that's who else are we going to see that's able to do? He's approaching like Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan territory, just not quite there yet.
Yeah. So it's definitely there, and I also, like, once again when we were talking, right, with the Dodgers now getting Tarek.
Yeah.
Is super teams bad for not only baseball, but for sports in general? And I'm gonna let you finish on this. I'm not gonna give my opinion. I want people down in the comments to give their opinion and to say what they think. I'm gonna let you finish up on this, Stan, and then we gonna get up out of here.
Okay. I don't think super teams are inherently bad if I think the issue comes with the big market teams having leverage over the smaller market teams. Like people in Philadelphia or New York or Chicago, they may not feel the same way as somebody in Tampa Bay feels. They're like, man, or even Milwaukee. So the fact that Milwaukee's able to do what they're able to do right now is pretty incredible. Or like the Athletics of the early 2000s, where they're competing with teams like the Red Sox and the Yankees, despite having a fraction of the payroll. So baseball is unique in that sense. But listen, as an Eagles fan, people have that sentiment about us. They're like, every time we turn around, the Eagles are getting some superstar, or or otherwise it was the Rams a few years ago. It's like, man, they just keep getting free agents like every year. But my thing is, go out and beat them, man. You have to go out and beat them. And the ownership plays a role in that as well. If you're worried about the tax bracket that you're going to fall into, like the luxury tax, that's on you, right? The fans should be getting mad at you for not wanting to compete with the other owners instead of putting your bottom line over everything else. Because if you do build a good team, the fans will come out and give you the extra dollars anyway. So stop penny pinching, right? Like go out and make the moves, right? The Phillies, they're a top 5 payroll in baseball, but we have made bad moves in terms of some of the guys we picked up, some of the guys in the farm system who have not panned out. That had nothing to do with the amount of money spent. That just means that we were not evaluating talent as good as the Dodgers or as good as Milwaukee, for example, regardless of what the payroll is. That's an us problem. It's not. It's you're paying multiple guys $20+ million a year, and you're still having base running mistakes. That has nothing to do with the money. That has something to do with the organization not getting the job done in terms of the coaching. I don't really have a problem with super teams, but I do have a problem in the one scenario like when you have with the NBA, where it seems like they are intentionally trying to create these super teams, like the Luka Doncic trade. It's like that shit didn't happen on its own. Like, why are you trying to get the Lakers relevant again? Let them figure out how to become relevant again versus trying to get them there because they're a historical franchise. Or with LeBron the first time when he went to the Miami Heat, it's like why was him and Chris Bosh and them able to talk behind the scenes and do all that in order to form a super team on their own outside of one of them being traded to the Heat or whatnot. I think ultimately super teams, although they can be stacked, they're not unbeatable. And I know we lost time here, but I'll just kind of wrap up the conversation. I think a good example of that is two good examples. Look back at the 80s. Look at the dynasties that we had with like the 49ers of the 80s in football. There was no salary cap back then in the NFL. You were able to pay a player whatever you wanted to in order to build the team that you wanted to. Your time's back here. I was wrapping it up by saying that I don't inherently have an issue with super teams per se, because at the end of the day, you still have to, as an organization, coach well, show up to practice every day, make things happen. Two examples I was going to throw out. One was the 2008 Patriots, where you had Tom Brady, and then somehow they got Randy Moss from my Raiders falling to their lap, and everybody's like, who's going to beat them? They go 16-0. Everybody's like, might as well just mail in the Super Bowl now because nobody's going to beat them. And then the little Giants, I mean, pun intended, they're like, you know what? We're not scared of them. And they punched back, and then he figured out, you know what? Maybe our defense can stop him. Maybe we can slow him down. Somehow met him in the Super Bowl again. And Tom Brady and that offense could not do shit up against that Giants defense. And they did not have the star power that the Patriots had. They had guys that became household names outside of Strahan, but nobody knew Justin Tuck back then. Nobody knew OCU Manure. They were just new players, right? And then even if you go back to the 80s, before they had a salary cap in the NFL, nobody was complaining when the 49ers were winning multiple rings. They got a Jerry Rice, and then they could go out in the 90s and pick up a Deion Sanders or you know what I'm saying? So like I think that it can give an unfair advantage based off of market cap of the team, sure. But if you plan properly and you're able to evaluate talent, sometimes teams that have the most money, but they can't evaluate talent, you can't throw money to fix a problem. That's why I use the Phillies as a perfect example. Versus you look at the Dodgers, I'll take your organization. Yeah, you gave up some pieces to get Tariq, but the reason why you had those pieces to give up in the first place is because you were evaluating talent the proper way. The reason why the Philadelphia Eagles are who they are now is because they transitioned from a time where they did not evaluate talent well, despite throwing money at the problem, and they started evaluating talent well. And now throwing money at the problem just enhances your own good decision-making skills.
Mm-hmm.
So I say all that to say that life is not fair. Yeah, there are going to be other teams that have an advantage of you money-wise, but if you're able to evaluate talent, you can maximize the talent more than a team that has more money but cannot maximize the talent or decision making the way that you can. So it's not going to change. You either going to get it done or you're not going to get it done. If you're worried about another team being stacked as a super team, hey, just get out the business, man. Just get out the business. There are other teams that eventually have to take down that super team, outpace them, and then they become the big kid on the block. It's the circle of life. At a certain time, nobody thought the Cowboys would ever lose, whether it was before the salary cap era or once it kicked in when Jerry Jones, around that time where Jerry Jones was owner. Nobody thought that the 49ers would ever not be a dynasty. Nobody ever thought that the Oilers of the 80s with Gretzky would ever not be a dynasty. Nobody thought that the Yankees of the 90s would ever end. And there's still no salary cap in baseball. But guess what? The Yankees have not been as dominant as they were in 20 years, almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of proof in point. If the Yankees were the end all be all, there wouldn't be no Red Sox of the 2000s that beat that team eventually. Stop being little brother to the Yankees. There would be no Phillies in 2008. There would be no Dodgers, who were really like y'all used to be a laughingstock, make all these mistakes, not really have a good team, and then you figured it out. But just
The
throwing
Dodgers have
money,
gone through
which y'all
different.
had, was not going to. Yeah, come on now. Throwing money at it alone and just paying a whole bunch of free agents is not. It can solve your ills if things come together, sure, but it's not a guarantee.
No, it's never a guarantee. I mean, listen, the Angels had Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout for how long, and they couldn't figure anything out. You could bring in
Nah, that
superstars,
team, but
but that
yeah.
it doesn't mean much of anything a lot of times. If the players don't gel, if the management isn't right. The Dodgers, like I said, the Dodgers went through a couple different owners, and that's why we're here today when the new
Remember,
ownership had taken over back in
remember the
2012.
dream team
And
we
that's when
had with
things
the Eagles.
what with
Remember the dream team with
T.O.
the
and
Eagles?
McNabb?
No, not that. Michael Vick and Vince Young came in and said, "We were the dream team. We have Michael Vick. We bought a bunch of. It was a star-studded cast under Andy Reid, I think. And yeah, you said we're the dream team, and that just
Yeah.
spelled that it was an omen. Like on paper, we look like who's going to deal with them. Well, it might have been Macklin and Djax and Vic, and then Vince Young and Shady or Westbrook. And they're like, man, yeah, dream team, right? Yeah. Namdi Asamoah, Santi Samuel, Dominique
Oh
Rogers-Cromartie.
yeah.
Like we were stacked. Yeah.
The
But
team
that
was
was on
stacked.
paper.
Yeah.
That was on paper. And it was a disaster. I don't even know if we were a 500 team that year.
Yeah,
On paper, we
man.
should have been 12 and
Lot
4.
a lot of times that super team moniker, that's can't nobody beat them. But hey, you still got to play the game, right? Just as in
Yeah.
sports as in life, you still got to play the game. So that's real though. That's real, man. I mean, yeah, you gave a great perspective on that super team stuff though, because a lot of players say a lot of people always say you get a Steph Curry, you get a Kevin Durant, you get a Draymond Green, you get a Klay Thompson on your team. You can't lose. There's no way. How can you lose with players like that on your team? Man, they didn't lose much, I'll tell you that, but they they didn't win every game. They didn't win everyone, right? But it is it they did win a lot of winning, right? A lot of winning. But it is what it is, right? A lot of this super team gets thrown around a lot. Big three, get the big three players on your team in basketball, and with baseball, you get a couple all-star pitchers, a couple all-star hitters, and you can't be stopped. In hockey, you get some great defensemen and you get some scorers. And with these teams and these big names, the big names still have to show up in the big times. So, with that being said,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you for watching. Jack of all trades, episode 17. We out.
Yes, sir.
Jack of all trades, I move how I move.